Hello, namaste, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening in whichever part of the world you are joining us from. I am Deepak R. Khemani and welcome to Bloom. At Bloom, we strongly believe in co creation, collaboration, and teamwork. Today, Bloom, along with Reach Out, has organized this program. Reach Out is into mental wellness and is founded by Dr. Neeta Matre Mishra, who is also the co-founder of Bloom and our guest speaker today. Bloom is into mental wellness, trainings, speaking engagements, and creating signature workshops for corporates and individuals. We invite each one of you to be a part of Bloom, where together we grow, and as Bloom blossoms, it creates ripples the world over. On our show today, we have three guests. Let me introduce Dr. Sudipta Roy. Dr. Sudipta Roy, welcome to this program.
Welcome, thank you.
Dr. Sudipta is the founder and director of Silence, a center for providing comprehensive psychological services at Surat. She is a highly reputed RCI licensed practicing clinical psychologist, mental health trainer, and teacher of psychology. Next, we have Anil Thomas. Welcome, Anil.
Thank you.
Anil is an internationally certified NLP master practitioner and a Gestalt therapist. He owes his therapeutic skills to Dr. Richard Dick McHugh. Anil conducts the global certification courses based on the classic, that is the original code, integrating the depth of alchemy of new code and the third description. He has authored more than 10 books in the space of neurolinguistics, mental health, and gestalt therapy. Even today, Anil practices therapy and conducts his LAB sessions with the master practitioners. In that way, he continues to contribute and learn simultaneously. Our third guest today, all the way from England, is Angela B. Sprague. Welcome, Angela. Can you hear us, Angela?
Yes. I can. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Angela B. Sprague is an international certified self-perspective coach and a founder of Publishing House England. She is also an international bestseller published author and speaker. Her background is aviation and surface transport operations in the UK. Wow. Her passion for writing propelled her towards a writing and publishing career. Her mission is to encourage new writers to become confident, ethical, published with better paid authors. She stumbled upon her passion for creative writing, editing, design, and network marketing by chance. And her full fun, full enthusiasm is a trait visible in every area of her life. Finally, Dr. Neeta Matre Mishra. Welcome, Dr. Neeta.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Dr. Neeta is a brand ambassador for IDF and Peace and Happiness at IWPG, South Korea, and is the founder of Reach Out. She's a mentor at Bringle Academy, a certified trainer, edupreneur, master NLP psychotherapist, Gestalt practitioner, and a wellness, sexual and relationship coach, having a specialization in alternative system of medicine, energy medicine, metaphor art therapy, ABT, and chromatography, that is color psychology. Welcome to all four of our guests today?
Thank you. Thank you. And first of all, a big, big, big gratitude to my guru, to my friend, to my coach, to my colleague. My entire lab is only and only because of Anil Thomas. So, a deep gratitude to you, Anil, a
That
deep
is,
gratitude to you.
I think, thank you for this opportunity,
Yes.
for
And
having invited.
it's like a community all coming together and talking about what exactly is this resilience over a long time. Like, of course, not only this pandemic, but suddenly in 3 to 4 years we have all been hearing the word resilience. And I would love to bring here the beautiful quote of Rumi. Like, as it said, yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I'm wise, so I'm changing myself. So I think that resilience has nothing to do with the outside world. Of course, there will be chaos. There will be a lot which is going to happen. But what does it mean that I am going to go ahead and take that action in my awareness? And for me, that awareness is nothing but, in fact, it's more to do be mindful. And is that resilience really working on me, or am I really in that speed or in that buzzword only talking and talking about resilience? That is where I thought that this could be a very good topic where we all experts can come share, and maybe we can share one key takeaways which can impact us as well as the journey of all. Over to you, Deepak sir.
Thank you, Dr. Neeta. Let's get into the questions right away. Let's start with Anil Thomas first. What do you think is the psychological understanding of resilience, and describe its relevance to mental health during this pandemic?
Yeah. I think the Tao that can be defined is not the Tao. Everything that we speak of resilience won't be resilience, but knowing that life is out to get us and we will fall and we got to rise tomorrow is my understanding of this concept of resilience. It is extremely important from the space of mental health. And I'm talking, when I speak of mental health, I'm talking of not of those on that side of the abnormal psychology, but I'm talking of this side, who can, with motivation or with inspiration or by modeling or different ways, can choose to come up. But there is something on that side which alone talk cannot pull them back. They need clinical support. They will need something else and much deeper than that. I think that's what I would like to share.
Yeah, and its relevance, particularly in these pandemic times.
Well, I think pandemic is just overhyped. We've had the Korean War, the World War. We've had the Vietnam War. We've had Syria going on. I think pandemic is a very narrowed and a hyped up capitalistic sell point. It was relevant always through life. There wasn't a time when it was not relevant. You ask every lady who's become a mother, it was relevant there. You ask someone who's going through stage 4 cancer and discovered overnight, it's important there. It was always relevant, always.
I would like to, bounce off this question to Angela. Angela, what are your views on this?
Anil has become my big fan because he knows about Tao Te Ching.
Isn't that the course?
It's, I can listen to that audio for so long.
Yeah, it's the course.
Yes, it's just what can be named cannot be. It's just it's so profound. If you need answers, just listen to the Tao.
Yeah.
It's it's all about, for me on a personal level, it's all about your journey, and whatever is going to challenge you, you will go through it. People talk about pandemic. I think that is a very cheap version, if I might put it so bluntly. It is a very cheap version of the events our ancestors have faced many, many moons ago. where they had no comfort, where they had no security. They didn't have, the padded cotton baskets in which we cushion ourselves and protect ourselves. Life will bring you the challenge that you need to conquer. To me, COVID, it almost had a zero impact on me, because COVID was never going to be a big deal. When COVID started, I said COVID will not touch me, and it did not. And I said that so bluntly because I'm not scared of death. To me, the death brought me into this life because I needed to learn something so beautiful. Death can come again through COVID or by other means. It matters not. So resilient is something that is always going to be part of me, whether I am a woman or else something else. So that is me.
Wonderful, Angela. Resilience is me. I am resilient. Dr. Sudipta.
Well, actually, I think I have a different perspective from what Anil and Angela have been saying. Being a mental health professional, I have worked throughout this whole phase of the pandemic, and I think that it would be unfair to minimize its effects to something as cheap or negligible, or to compare it to a war in some one country, because we are affected globally. And initially, when we started with the pandemic, we could only read statistics and wonder where these COVID clients were. But slowly, those numbers came closer to our homes, and then the numbers became names. And so many people I know have lost their close ones. So many of my clients, young children, have lost their mothers to the COVID. So I don't think that it is this is an experience incomparable with the things that we have seen in our lifetimes in the past. And I think that the whole concept of resilience becomes ever so important right now, because while I agree that it's a part of every normal life, and every person has to bank on their resilience at every time. What would we want to do with resilience at this time? I think resilience at a single point of time affecting so many people has never happened before. Like at this global level, there is a call for resilience from everyone who's alive right now. And everyone is having to reconceptualize the ground on which they have been walking. So many people are having to restructure their economical, their sources of economic dependence. Some of them are having to restructure their family lives. So there's so much of adversity, and the need for resilience has never been more profound. And that's why I jumped to the offer when Dr. Neeta came up with this plan. I think such a beautiful concept to come up with, and people really need to hear about it. Yeah.
So it is good to have differing views from different people, Otherwise, if everybody agreed on one thing, there would be no point in having a panel discussion. Everybody could be saying the same thing. So good to have different views. And I want to take this next question to Angela. Is resilience a personality trait, or is it a genetic trait? And I want you to say this because you said, that's the way I am. I'm born with it. So I want you to go on this first. Is it part of who you are? Did you acquire it because of your genetics, your family, your ancestors, or is it what you've become?
I wonder if I can answer it with a question.
Go ahead.
When you have no choice, is it genetic or is it the environment? So we might say when we have no choice, environment pushes you to strive for survival in the best possible way, but genetic also plays a part. I think in my experience is 50-50. So if I was to look at my background, the women are very strong in my dad's part of the family. They are natural leaders. They have strong viewpoints. So I know that genetics play part. And my mother was, a very domineering figure, and what she said goes. But she had the most beautiful kind way of portraying that love and authority. So I have the best of both, I believe. So although I had the best genetics, my views, but environment played a part in it, because I was raised in an environment where I did not have the infrastructure that one, takes advantage of as a teenager or as a young adult. And did I succumb to, oh my God, how bad my life is? Yes, sometimes I thought, damn it, this is too tough, surely. And I did bear some resentment towards parents who don't think hard enough about bearing children. I just think, it is the most responsible thing that one must do when they want to have a child. People just get married and have children, have no concept of how, about bringing the child up. And I held that slight grudge, and also held my parents in admiration at the same time, because I was allowed to exercise. My dad warned me about this. He said, Angela, you're a beautiful, strong woman. You go and do what you need to do. And I wasn't provided with the infrastructure I craved at times when life was difficult. So genetics, yes. Environment, yes. When you have no choice, you have no choice. You have to go on. So that's my learning.
Thank you for sharing. Anil, your views?
Well, like I started by saying that the Tao that can be named is not the Tao. And I continue with that, saying that everything and every time we have whatever, it's only an opinion and a viewpoint. And to understand that all our viewpoints are shaded by the information that we've been getting, right from childhood, which is based on religious background, secondly, from nationality and border background. So everything that we think today, we think from a particular way because that's how media wants us to think, and that's what we know about it. If I was living in China, my world view is different. If I was living in Russia, my world view is different. If I'm living in Taiwan, today, the statistics, the numbers, and the names that we talk about, COVID, is a lot different. Iran is a different story. Russia today, the other part of Russia, not the one which comes in Asia, but the Russia which comes in Europe, is a lot different story. We don't have a one aspect to conclude, and therefore whatever we say will be our personal viewpoint. And I would like to say resilience is something that we learn through this journey, right from birth. And we learn because that's the environment we've been given, the environment of culture, family, society, religion, whatever we have. Well, some people, even at the extreme atrocities, will not learn. They may give up. And some people may learn. And it just goes on that way. Yeah, there can be abusive parents, dark parents, shadow parents. Not necessarily that child will learn resilience. Well, there can be nurturing parents and the child turns out to be resilient. There can be 1,000 reasons, and we will never know what the exact formula is. But sure enough, we can take successful people whom we define as resilient, and we can try to find out what are their values, what are their beliefs, what are their hierarchies, what's important to them, and see if we can model those things into our nervous system. But we can learn it, but I don't know how we get it. If yes, we could inject children right at the early age with that, and we could make them all, why wouldn't we do that, right? But we don't know what that is.
It'd be so boring, I know.
Yeah. If we would have had a resilience providing or resilience growing vaccine, which we give to children when they are born, all of us, they will turn out to be extremely resilient. Dr. Neeta, your views?
I so agree that whatever is resilience is basically, for me, I will take resilience with my own journey. For me, my resilience started when something happened in my space. So I decided that I will not be a warrior, but I will be a warrior.
Warrior. Wow.
And when I become a warrior, I will be looking after my physical space, my emotional space, as well as my mental space. And that is where my journey and my boundaries were very clear. As Anil mentioned, what is happening here, the map, I modeled my mother as the age of 37 when she became a young widow at the year 1974. And at the age of 37, where today we see people getting married. But with 37 age, she has raised up 4 kids without cribbing, without complaining, and taking it not as responsibility, but taking it as they are mine. They belong to me. So when this belongingness came into me, I decided that yes, however it is, if my husband is being diagnosed with any type of disease, any type of ailment, I take charge. I take charge mentally, physically, emotionally, and definitely spiritually too. And that is where resilience has come on its own, by being so aware and being so focused, and also protecting my entire boundaries, protecting my space, where I may not allow anyone to just hop in, skip in, and go. No, that is very, very much important. So I think as your journey progresses, you become resilient. And it's not a skill, it's not a session which can be taught to you. Ki, come on, you attend my 2-hour session and you'll become resilient. No. You have to experience. You cannot understand unless you do not step into someone's shoes. When people talk about empathy, that is what has become again a buzzword. Everyone
Yes.
is being empathy, resilience. No, you need to experience. And I think, Anil, I can take that word from you if you don't mind. Experience the experience. Oh gosh.
That's not mine. That's not mine. That's
It's,
Grinder. Grinder would say
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sharing is caring. isn't it?
Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful.
Nita said,
So,
as much
share.
as I want to
Yeah.
get in over here, Deepak. As much as Nita said that resilience is not a 2-hour sessions, but I can tell you a list of training sessions for 2 hours where
oh
the
gosh.
has been sold. Just let me know if you want to buy any of them. I can forward those many links to you.
And Dr. Sudipta, your views on resilience has to be experienced. It can't be taught. And clearly, one person's view of resilience can be different on what another person says that this is my resilience.
So basically, resilience is a quality that develops in people. See, the whole understanding of resilience came up because of a certain research which suggested that children who've been through adverse life circumstances, they tend to differ in the way that they deal with it. Some people come out unscathed and some people come out very much broken. So what makes the difference between the two groups? So it was seen that yes, the children who are becoming resilient, it's because of certain things. Like one is that their capacity to have dealt with adverse experiences in the past. Second, to get a reinforcement or a rewarding experience out of coming out of those adverse events. The third is a flexibility, and the fourth is some past a past positive person in their life. It need not be parents, it can be a teacher, it can be a mentor, it can be a friend, a neighbor, anybody, and it can be even a single contact that can bring up these experiences. And that's why I feel that resilience can be taught, because in my therapy, if I do become the inspirational person to the person who's actually going through an adverse life experience at this time, then I can help them to see life in a different way. And sometimes in a moment, a change or a switch occurs where the person is now no longer feeling like a victim or broken, but they are feeling in charge of their life and they have a sense of agency. And that's where their resilience has grown. So I think that resilience can be developed. It is a skill that can be developed through some type of simulated experiences, contact with some good persons, inspirational persons can make that change. And past experience definitely plays a big part also. Yes. So I think that's
Yeah.
how I would look at
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And my next question logically comes on what you said. Is there something called a resilience quotient? Something where it can be measured across people, just like there is an intelligence quotient, there is an emotional quotient. Is there a resilient quotient which can be taught, or it can be brought up or increased?
Yes. Do you want me to take that question? Yeah.
Please, it's for you. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So basically, so far there's nothing like a resilience quotient, but I think the idea is fantastic, and we might see that coming up by the end of the pandemic. And what I see is that, like resilience, there are scales to measure resilience in children and in adults, but still, there's a lot of research needed in that line because we do not have good tools for that measurement, and they are not across all languages and community, whereas resilience is a very global phenomena and needs to be looked at quite differently. So far that clarity has not come about in the scientific community, but I do hope so that by the end of this pandemic we'll be seeing something around that direction. And I think that it would actually become more important than the spiritual quotients, than the IQ and the EQs at this time. Yes.
Yeah. I saw Angela smiling when I asked this question. Over to you, Angela.
Well, I don't know. I'm a little bit two ways about it, because when Miss Roy was making comments, she made a lovely viewpoint about, having the, when somebody's gone through extreme scenarios, for example, and they may be able to survive or be more resilient. I believe that was the point. But then there's another behavior, isn't it? When sometimes you see extreme, like toxic behaviors in your childhood and you repeat patterns, so that is like totally opposite to resilient. That is almost like a counterproductive, isn't it? It's a counterproductive behavior. See, as a young adult or even a middle-aged adult, I see my past toxic experiences as my great learning lessons, whereas another person would see that as they'll just carry on with that toxicity, and they won't consider that as it gave me something so useful tool that I have learned, and I can make use of that to progress in life. So how do you differentiate? Is there a way to measure whether that toxic environment is gonna harm you or flourish you? I was just thinking about that, and I would love a study on that.
I think Anil could add a few more.
We can always put some questions out, take it in a sample size, get out some data. But my question is, have these sample questions been tested across universally through China, Russia, and through the tribal communities, through the Basques, or are they popularly being tested and come out with something? As much as I like the MBTI and the psycho instruments and tools, as much as I like them, the concern is people use that as a label for the rest of their lives. Well, these are the starting point. They are not something that you continue from here. If I've been tested and if my number is 3.2 on the test scale, or if I am a 4 alphabet something, S, J, P, G, Q something, well, that is what I am because of what I have been, and that is not I will continue to be. It's a position of change from here, and that's not a label, and I'm not a bottle.
Yeah.
Having said that, well, there are parameters with which we can develop. But can I teach? Well, they can learn. Between the genius and the student, between the modeler and the model, well, the modeler is there, but not every model can be learned from. There's so much of learnings in the world. From Obama, the stories of Obama, Narayan Murthy, Lance Armstrong, we'll have stories across the board. But can we learn from all of them? Well, if the intent is there, if the concept of self is developed, if self-esteem is proper, if my values are in place, if my intention is right, if I have a future perspective of myself and I see myself as something different, then I know the adversities and the atrocities that I have today have a different role to play, and I can move beyond my shadow to reach the point where I want to belong. But as long as we are using the capitalistic idea, well, then that is induced into us to sell from a particular standpoint.
Yes, I agree with what you are saying. You can't be defined by a number or a set of 3 or 4 letters which says ABCD or PQR, and this is your level or this is what you are. Dr. Neeta.
Yeah, so here actually I'm bringing in the question which is asked by Daisy. When it comes to adversity quotient, definitely here is where you will, when I remember in CBT. So in CBT you have that 6 parameters which talks about resilience. And all these 6 parameters, if I see which talks about resilience, none have been measured. None have also been even tested. It has just given that these are the 6 parameters. And we have all those 6 styles, and then understanding it, okay, this is what the quotient is going to be. I think no, that doesn't pay. And I definitely agree that adversity quotient can somehow allow you to experience and also talk about resilience. And we will experience it not only being in adversity, sometimes it is, if it is too much, because we see people dealing resilience with humor, we see people dealing resilience with laughter. So each and every person have a different parameters to deal with resilience. So we do not have a fixed structured formula which is going to tell, okay, yes, so tomorrow I am resilient certified and my parameters is 90%. Absolutely. No, no, it's not going to be the same.
Yeah.
I would like to just add one line here.
Go ahead, Anil, go ahead.
Resilience without the right intention and without the right self-esteem or concept of self can be joker. He did come back, but then look at his comeback. So resilience has to be garnished well with concept of self, self-esteem, and the intention. And this has to be, like my teacher says, and I like to quote, that resilience which is not in service of the soul is in service of the ego. And then that resilience can be like a trickster like Loki, or it can be like a joker, Arthur, who comes back dangerously. And that's when you realize, what am I capable of? I become the DID, the Tyler Durden of Fight Club. You know, you become the other person then altogether.
Great examples, Anil. Great examples.
I was wondering, just listening from Anil, I was wondering if, like any dangerous situation we find ourselves in, and the body reacts by, flight or fight or freeze, is that how we behave towards resilience?
Well,
some people,
in a situation, we install these neuromuscular locks, which could be fighting, freezing, or probably something else. But in some way, we freeze ourselves. I'd like to put the word as a neuromuscular lock with which we stop the flow.
Yeah.
And then in retrospection, we may look at and say, oh, I could have done that.
Yeah.
But in that moment, I'm not in the state of my resource. I'm not connected to the source of my resource. And then I'm just responding without connection. That's just my viewpoint.
Neuromuscular lock. That's a new one. I have heard one. Dr. Sudipta wants to say something. Please go ahead.
Yes. So I want to respond to what Angela just brought up about the fight and flight. So like by definition, resilience is the phenomenon or the skill that brings us back into our pre-crisis form after an adversity has occurred. So generally, it's not the reaction to the adversity, but once the adversity has passed, how strongly we come back into our normal sphere of being, that is our resilience.
Yeah.
So generally, this would happen after the fright, the freezing, everything is gone, and then now we have the time to recover. So how well do we recover? That is resilience. Yeah.
So Angela actually preempted my next question, which I was going to ask. So my next question was, is resilience actually another word for survival of the fittest, right? This fight or flight mentality, this thing that we are told that this has happened because of evolution. I remember the very first time I heard about resilience when I was in school. And at that time, resilience wasn't a very sexy word. We were told that a rubber band is resilient. You pull it, it will come back to its own state until it snaps. So this is your example of resilience. I'm just bringing that back into today because it just took me over 40 years back when I was in school. So my question again, as I said, which you preempted me, is resilience another word for survival of the fittest?
I love that question because it always makes me wonder throughout my life. I'm inquisitive by it actually. I'm inquisitive in the sense, why do I behave the way I do? You know, it is so like, and I love all these theories and datas and everything that people collate, and we tell everybody we are all individuals. We should all be treated individually, and then we are very quick to label. Like Anil said, it's like that your label cannot label me because I'm unique. So,
Yes.
and what fascinates me about life, I am in love with life and I love life daily and I love challenges and I feel so connected with the universe. So I have a very different stance to, how I respond. And it's, I question myself, is it the survival of the fittest? Is it genetics, or is it just I'm just a fighter, and what the hell, I'm a woman, of course I'm resilient, I can deal with this, right? because I call I always call myself, I'm a superwoman, of course I can deal with this rubbish. So I'm very positive. I'm a problem solver. So my natural ability is to focus on, okay, boom, there's a problem. Let me see. I have the intelligence. I am in a great space. I am now going to find a solution. I won't freeze because I still think, like Dr. Roy said, resilience is after the like COVID, for example. But for me, resilience is current. It's how you're going to respond. To me, if you have the resilience, it's like, damn it, I don't care what happens. I'm going to deal with this my way, So to me, there is a resilience factor that you use while you are in that danger zone. And so you set boundaries and you say, okay, for example, in COVID, we had a rule about this is how we're going to do when we come indoors. This is what's going to happen, and this is where we will dress and wash and come in. So we had a little, some people just couldn't be bothered. It was too much. And some people are so passionate, they're protesting. Some people think the whole thing is a big government global charade. Some people think this is a chemical warfare, And there is so much noise. It is up to you how you react. So it is the survival of the fittest, because while everybody is getting drowned in the noise, I am focused on finding a solution. So
Wonderful.
isn't that resilience? It's not just post-event. So that's I think the survival of the fittest does come into how you respond to the problem.
Yeah. So from one superwoman to another superwoman, Dr. Neeta, your views.
Yay!
Thank you, Angela. Thank you. So from one superwoman to one superwoman, in this entire pandemic, or maybe any chaos, I am very, very clear that I only do selective listening. I listen to what is important for me to grow as human, what is important to me to grow as a mother, what is important to me to grow as a wife, what is important to me to grow as a citizen. So I use a selective deafness. I am not bothered about the statistics. I am not bothered about what is even happening in the world. I'm bothered what is happening in my now.
Yeah.
In my now, how am I responding? I will not even react. I might respond. Because if I react now, maybe the repercussions will be later. But
Yeah.
my response of even being silent is enough as an answer. So when it comes to warrior, it doesn't mean that I should be removing my talwar and, like Rani ki Jhansi and coming with that horse. No, it can be sheer silence. And that is the way which I would love to respond. And for me, being selective deafness and at times even being that Hindi movie Gajni is fine, because keeping too much is not really important. For keeping too much, I don't even, if I have to reflect back, oh my god, I don't even really recollect the last 10 days mein what did I have my breakfast. So why do I keep so much in my space
Yes.
which is not important? So important is what I do now. I don't know what will I do at 9:30 today in the evening.
You can watch Chansi Kirani.
And I'll take this back to Sudipta and Anil. I'll have to give this question last to you because somehow the three of us are in a minority today. You, me, and Premraj. Out of 15 people, we had 12 wonderful ladies, and there are only three
I
gents.
beg to differ. The woman in me is present. The woman in me is present.
Oh yes, the yin and the yang has to be there, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. Dr. Roy.
Yes, please ask me. What is the question?
Yeah. I mean, is resilience another word for survival of the fittest?
Oh,
Yeah,
for
that
the
one.
oh yes, yes. Actually, I feel that survival of the fittest is more about physical evolution, the biological evolution. And I think that when we talk about resilience, it's not just survival of the fittest. It's more about psychological fitness to deal with what's going on. And there's been a debate around the terms that you just used, like, this kind, it has been coming up in the scientific community. That does it make one selfish? Is it like, you're just trying to save your own skin and survive in the world? Is that what you're doing when you are resilient? But actually speaking, resilience has a societal connect as well. That I mean, when it's only when you're feeling connected to your roots, well, to your society, to your culture, that's when you can be resilient. So I think that when we talk about survival of the fittest, it's not the same as resilience. It's a different thing. And the kind of psychological resilience that we normally see, discuss, and discover, it has its roots in everything around us as well. And if how well we can connect with those roots, that's what makes us a more resilient person.
Anil,
Yeah, we are using one way.
first the woman in you needs to answer, and then the man in you
The
answer.
woman in me is present all throughout.
Uh,
You can count me on that.
So
Yeah.
Anil, you can answer twice. It's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I liked what Dr. Roy said, that psychological resilience and then resilience at different level. Now that's the Blake mythology, the four zoes, right? Taking it to every level, the identity, the body, the emotion, the spirituality. And you see, we've already created these multiple splits. Then we are creating these multiple splits of the term. Is it emotional stability? Is it resilient stability? Is it adversity quotient? The challenge is we are using one vagueness to explain another vagueness, and each of these vagueness will trigger multiple vagueness in our system, neurology, and map of the world. And the more we try to define it, the more, because it's vague. It's not something that I can use my senses to define. I can't see it, I can't touch it, I can hear it, I can taste it, I can feel it. So it's, at the end of the day, it's a viewpoint, and they're all correct. You know, it's the Blake mythology. It's all correct. How can it be wrong? Because it's not real, and therefore it's my interpretation. And yes, what's emotional for me would be spiritual for somebody else.
Yes.
And it's all yes, as long as we can ensure that we can survive at every level in our inner system, in the field that we belong to, as a child, as a mother, as a parent, as a father, as an entrepreneur. As long as we can survive, I think whatever we call it then.
So the Tao is not the Tao.
It's not. It's not.
Yeah. So having said that and listened to everybody, and everybody has their own viewpoint, and nothing is right and nothing is wrong, can there be a term called low resilience? And let me qualify it by saying, let's say there is a child who's been born with a silver spoon in his or her mouth, compared to a child who's come up with, in life with difficult situations. Will this person have a lower resilience point, or a lower resilience factor compared to the guy who's been there, done that, seen it all? Anil, you first.
Brilliant. I was somehow hoping that you asked me this first. And I would say, never underestimate Alice in Wonderland. She was not having the skills before she was crossing the threshold, but after crossing that threshold, she did slay the dragon. What you have is not an equivalence to measure that. Well, that's mythology. Go back to Arjuna. Arjuna didn't have it, and he put his weapons down and he tells Krishna, I cannot. But then with that something which Krishna shows him, he picks it up and then he goes ahead. Well, what I have is not a concrete proof of what I'm capable of. And that's the hero's journey. And the hero is only when he gets in touch with his femininity. And there is a thin line between the hero's journey, which can become the villain's journey. So what I have in me is no equivalence of what I can become.
Wonderful. Dr. Roy.
I'd love to answer that one. So, you know what, by convention, it does appear that the person who has a silver spoon in the mouth is likely to be less resilient than the person who's had tough times in their life. So, in fact, many of the resilience researchers, they say that overprotective parents should take a second look and allow their children to make mistakes, to fall and get up, because that's what determines your resilience in life. So, but at the same time, the person with the silver spoon in the mouth, if they have good cognitive abilities and they've had a sense of self-efficacy, then they would be resilient too. So adversity is a good teacher. So if you've not really faced adversity at all, the chances are you've never learned how to deal with it. But if you have other skills like Alice did when she crossed the threshold, it was her cognitive skills that helped her to deal with whatever she was facing, though it was completely new, and thankfully it was a wonderland. But yes, I think cognitive skills makes a huge difference in the life of a person.
And just to add that, I'm sorry, doctor, but what if that Allison was going through hallucination, depression? Now this wouldn't work. So the understanding that we are talking about the neural anatomy is not a substitute for a clinical study. And that should not be mistaken. To all the viewers, I think that's a message which should go loud and clear. That when they're going through that and you show them Alice in Wonderland, or you motivate them with the Saransh of Krishna, that's not going to help. They need clinical intervention.
Yes, so I think that that's a point I would like to just extend a little bit there. So it's like when you hear about resilience, you start classifying people. Oh, this person is not resilient. Oh, this person is lowly resilient, or something like that. So I think that's where what Anil says makes a lot of sense. It's like when a person is already suffering from a clinical depression or anxiety or a schizophrenia. At that time, you start saying, "Oh man, face it, you've got to be more resilient," or something like that. That's where we are making a
Yeah.
mistake in understanding the worth of this terminology, and making the mistake of not being compassionate enough to help them out in such circumstances. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Dr. Neeta.
So I have the same answers to the whole thing.
So
I
you can't
think
copy the answer. Sorry.
no copying. I know you're not going to give me marks also for copying, so I'm not going to copy. So certainly, as both mentioned, adversity. Apart from adversity, here is where cognitive really plays a very, very important role. And when you play that, when you understand that this is what is happening to me, it is my experience. It is not somebody else's experience. And in this also, let me tell you that at times we compete and we borrow people's emotions as my emotion. Maybe it might be depression for me, but it could be anxiety for someone else. So, how am I borrowing that? So, let that Alice in Wonderland be Alice in Wonderland rather than putting it Alice in Wonderland who was depressed and went to Wonderland. So we really do not have to do that. Just let it be. Just let it be.
Angela.
I would love to just make 2 points, if I may. I won't take too much of your time.
Please go ahead, Angela. Please go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, my my reply to Dr. Roy, because she made a wonderful point about the resilience. If resilience was not related somehow to survival of the fittest, then why was there a warnings about people who had underlying health issues? They were more prone to getting COVID, and how many people, suffered mental health issues, and so many suicides have happened, all related to COVID lockdowns and things. So I wonder what your remark on that, first of all, is. And the second is about, like we're talking about the silver spoon compared to nothing, childhood. I wonder if, because I don't know how I know it, but I've always knew it, that I have come here to learn something, and environment has been created for me to gain what I've come here to learn. So that just puts everything to one side. I needed that environment in order to learn and progress to next level as a spiritual being or whatever. I don't know, that's just my thinking, right? So rather than focusing on studies of various other scenarios, resilience, strength, and, how we can survive, how about creating a benchmark that parents need to follow in order to, give all of us a better survival rate? Is it not? I think the biggest responsibility lies on parenting. Why aren't we making parenting the core important in our life? And in the West, you probably know, it is the shambles. Our parenting system is like, it almost doesn't exist. So to me, I think it's the parentings that need supporting, and all other issues probably will resolve themselves. That's all. Thank you.
Great, great. Well said, Dr. Angela. And my last question to all four of you, and 30 seconds to each for answering this question. Is there something called being consistently resilient? Or is it an oxymoron?
Yeah.
Consistently resilient. Anil.
I'd say consistency is not a human process. It's not a human phenomenon. We are not built to be consistent. We will rise and go up and down like the wave. We'll go up and down, up and down. Some waves are higher, some are lower. Sometimes it's flat and then we come and sometimes we don't. Consistency is not a human phenomenon.
Wonderful. Dr. Roy.
Yeah, I do agree. I don't think we can be consistently resilient all the time, no. Because everybody would have, we would have our differences in capacities based on the life lines that we've all followed and at which time we are at right now. It could put us more at stress for certain things. So I do think it is an oxymoron. We cannot really say that.
Yeah.
Angela.
Even super women need a break.
Yeah.
When I need a break, I have a
Yeah.
break. So
Yeah, I think that is a cue telling me that you need to close now. It's a Sunday, but I'll give the last word to Dr. Neeta. Last word to Dr. Neeta.
Yeah, for me, I'll take it as the ECG has a waves. In the same way, resilient will have those full waves coming out, and you cannot have anything consistent. Consistent is one flat line means you are dead,
yes.
and you just can't
Yeah.
have that.
Yeah.
And we need
And
to
this-
live. We need to live. We are here
Yeah.
to create.
Yeah, and this reminds me of a famous and a very old Bollywood song. And apologies, Angela, I will try and translate it for you. But the song goes like this: Zindagi. Okay. So I'll translate it for you if you haven't. So the song goes like this: Zindagi ki yahi reet hai, haar ke baad hi jeet hai. So Anil Thomas said, life is not a straight line. Dr. Angela said, if your ECG flat lines, you're dead. There will be ups and there will be downs and there will be downs and only then you will rise. That will determine how resilient you are. You cannot remain consistently resilient because you are human. You are not God. You can't be consistent in whatever you do.
Either consistent.
Even gods are not consistent. The day I get a chance to interview God, I will ask him or her this question, and depending on what they answer, I will agree that they are consistent or not. Thank you, Anil, for your inputs. This last 1 hour we all of us have spent together has been such an experience. I've never met Anil before, Angela before, Sudipta before, but I just feel that there is this connection between all of us. All the 15 of us who are in this virtual room connected together. Thank you, Angela, all the way from England for joining us on a Sunday. Thank you, Anil. Thank you, Sudipta and Dr. Neeta for taking out, and Dr. Neeta especially for facilitating this meeting to happen. Before we close, a minute to Payal Irani, our founder of Bloom.
Payal, can I just take a minute? So
Please.
next month, that is every month, we bring in one topic. So next month, the topic is racism. And again, we are going to have few mental health professionals and few educators who are going to join in. Whenever, however, please feel free to join in for the sessions. Of course, it's going to be engaging, learning, sharing, and maybe relearning some processes.
Deep gratitude to Anil, Dr. Sudipta, Dr. Neeta, Angela. Thank you, Deepak, for hosting this entire session. More love and
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for having me.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Neeta,
Thank you, Anil.
I was reading
know.
on Instagram, there was a meme that came up saying that don't be a racist, hate everybody equally.
So probably those people have read my mind.
No, then that is probably God who made that Insta post.
Thank you. everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.